Welcome in. This is your odds checker betting preview for this week's Masters. I'm Rick Gehman. That right there, Geoff Fienberg. Jeff, we made it. It is here again, our Super Bowl, the first major championship of the year, and it's the Masters.
Yeah, can't wait. Super excited. The problem is I'm having a harder time than most trying to figure out who I actually like to win this event, because I like Brooks Koepka, Rick, I don't know, 25, 28 names, draw a red line through that, and, that's where you pick it from.
We'll get to Koepka. I'm loving Koepka, but you and I were just talking before we went hot. Major championship betting, it's kind of a year-round thing. At times, you'll see guys who, will win. Oh, somebody wins the 3M Open. Go check his Masters number. Go see what it is, right? So not only do we have kind of the card that we are going to create this week, but there's a lot of people out there who already have some sort of card in place.
Yeah, and honestly, I believe a lot of that's been, the ability for a lot of that has been taken away from us, in my opinion, in recent years. The ability to make the future bets, to get better future markets, future traffic, as you kind of alluded to, it only goes one way. If a guy is playing horribly, they don't drift the odd. Brooks Koepka could be struggling for months, but they're like, I don't know, the Masters isn't till 5 months from now. What do we care what he's playing like now? So, you respect that. But, guys like Patrick Reed, like, their odds should have ballooned. They haven't. Maybe we'll get a reset, I guess, this week, but it's been hard. Unless, honestly, you made an early future on, say, a Scottie Scheffler or a Cameron Smith, there's relatively the same number out there that you've probably looked at or been thinking about for close to half a year. And even with guys like Scheffler and Smith had such great course history. People loved him to begin with. So the future market never gave us something huge. And Scheffler's kind of always been on the precipice that, I'm sure the biggest we're seeing would be a 40. Congratulations if you have them. But I don't know, the market, I don't know that you missed much if you didn't make those two bets.
Yeah, it's kind of one-way traffic. I think that's a good way to look at it. Even I know people made bets on Cam Smith when the 2021 Masters ended, and that was a couple of wins ago, right? I mean, it's been going on for nearly 12 months. Here's the grid, the beautiful odds checker grid for this week's Masters, and there are 6 golfers at the moment that are shorter than 20-1. Jon Rahm leads the way. 11-1 is the best number available. You can get it at PointsBet or Bet365. Justin Thomas in a tier of his own at 14-1. Then Cam Smith, DJ, and Scottie Scheffler, Jeff, are all at 16, while Rory McIlroy rounds out the group at 18-1. How do you start to assess the top of the betting board?
Okay, well, I will not be leaving the grid all week. The grid will be attached to me. It will be like another limb of mine, Rick. I'm like your crazy aunt on Black Friday sales when those used to be a thing, like flyer shopping for everything, trying to find the best number I possibly can. Because if I'm lucky enough to hit a winner, I'm going to show you I got the best number. And the grid will be by my side to know how good or bad that number is. I'm hoping we do get, with this ultra competitive marketplace, a bit of a line reset.
Yeah.
That being said, under 20-1, the move I would make, I feel like, would be Dustin Johnson, who I bet at the match play, got to the semifinals, got wagoned by Scottie Scheffler, who hasn't. And ever since that Sunday at the Players, just kind of feels like he's kind of clicked. The Masters has been kind to players who have done well there before. Before Dustin won the Masters, he could have won one or two other ones. So it's a place that he perpetually has had great success at, essentially since he's turned 25, 26, I would say. And he looks to kind of be clicking. So if I had to make a move under 20-1, that is the move I would make. I'm also hyper curious how big a Jon Rahm number could get next week if no one wants to bet him.
I thought about that too. What could I get a 14 somewhere? Could I get a 14 on Jon Rahm?
The stats show everything is kind of there. You're waiting for the putting to click. The firm and fast surface has always worked for him. It feels like there hasn't been a Masters hasn't taken place in the last 3-4 years that Rahm hasn't played well in. So I do kind of respect his shot at the top of the board. If Scheffler or Cam Smith continue the run they're on, I'm just gonna have to tip my visor, I guess, to them, Rick. Like at this point, they're kind of unbettable. I would respect them winning, but I'd have to bet like DJ or Brooks to actually win this thing, maybe instead of them. So that's where I will be. If they win, I won't win. We'll put it that way.
Fair enough. And I'm waiting to see what ROM number we can get because I haven't made a bet at the top yet. But here we go into the 20s. Every other one of the top players in the world here. Brooks Koepka, we're going to talk about him, is at 20-1 along with Colin Morikawa, Jordan Spieth, and Victor Hovland, all at 20. 22 is Cantlay, and 25-1 is Xander Schauffele. Geoff, you mentioned it at the top. I'm also very much in on Brooks Koepka. I think we are getting a healthy version of him. I think the advanced metrics are back in favor of his great ball striking. And you mentioned it. It's a major. Cross out the vast majority of these names. Brooks Koepka seems to find his way to the top of the leaderboard more often than not in major championships.
You could make the case that, I mean, it's weird because I feel like the same people that would bet him at 20 might even be thinking about betting him at 14. That's just how dominant his statistics are in major championship play over the last 4, 5, 6 years. And you throw in the fact that it does feel like, in the same way for the last couple of weeks we've been talking about, it feels like he hasn't gone to match play healthy in the last 2 or 3 years. Well, you piggyback that onto the fact, I know that to be a fact because he hasn't gone to the Masters healthy, it feels like, in the last 2 or 3 years. He's offended by his world ranking. Now, I don't care about this care more stuff. This is the Masters. Every player cares about it. And even Brooks Koepka, guys, for his 2 PGA championships and his 2 US Opens, like, everything about the Masters is different. It puts you in a club that you always get to go back to. It's different than the PGA. It's different than the US Open. Even he will feel pressure and the weight of this event, even with his 4 major championships. That being said, who would you trust more with your money? Like, if you had to, like, it's kind of that simple. And my friends who don't really bet a ton of golf, but love to bet majors, and if they're like, just give me a guy who's going to be there Sunday, like, I don't know, it's got to be Brooks, to save your life. If you needed one guy, who would it be? I think it would be Brooks. I haven't made the bet yet, but I'm thinking about it a lot because sometimes I get suckered into guys that have never won anything, Rick.
Yeah, I'm a sucker for those too. Brooks Koepka, 16 top 10s in the 30 major championships he's played, over half the time. It's absolutely insane. Jordan Spieth, this is probably the biggest discrepancy we've seen, Geoff, on the grid so far. 13-1 in some places, as long as 20-1. Has a great final round at the Valero Texas Open. He is still struggling very much with the putter. I have no idea what to expect from Spieth, and I think you're going to see kind of that wide range of offerings all week long.
Okay, if you wanted to bet Spieth and Brooks both at 20, like, I couldn't besmirch that one bit. It actually seems pretty tactical and makes a lot of sense. I'm just not there at the moment, Rick. I would rather buy into guys, just a little behind. Even a Patrick Cantlay, who's never won the Masters, but he's got some really strong finishes. He's got a complete sort of game. I do trust his around the green game, his bunker game. So I don't know. And then, trust me, when Spieth wins and he gets to put on another green jacket and I'm sitting there with a Cantlay ticket, potentially, I'll feel really silly not to ride the old Yeller. But I'm not there. He showed some life at the end of his week at Valero, but it did end with a missed 4-footer for birdie. But he's probably thinking about just getting to Augusta already. I could be in on Brooks. I'm not there with Jordan. I'm just not.
There's a pretty sharp drop-off after Xander Schauffele at 25-1 because Bryson is next at 33. Bless you. And looking at the grid, that is the only golfer in the 30s. Then there's a drop to Will Zalatoris at 40 and another drop to Daniel Berger, Louis Oosthuizen, and Sam Burns, maybe even Shane Lowry at 50-1. So it starts to get fairly steep immediately after Xander here.
Yeah, and this has historically been an area that we like to attack. And in other majors, it's far more robust, right? Even the players, this range has a lot of like elite players, but I think the books are hyper aware of how small the field is and the sort of how few guys actually bring real win equity. And this part of the board is being squeezed, even going down to Xander. And his course history is probably the only thing that's keeping it at a 25 right now. Maybe that number does get big. Yeah, like a lot of places, he has a great course history. That being said, Rick, not just at the Masters, this sort of range, 25 to 50, it's been very kind to first-time major winners of all majors, especially the Masters. But in the last like handful of years, so many first-time major winners, this is where the price range that they have cashed in on, and even the Masters, from the first Bubba to Reed to Sergio to Hideki, this has been a very popular range. Even if you want to laugh, I think the Willett off price was around 60 to 1. That being said, if you could stomach, you need a guy's first ever win would need to be the Masters, then you should bet Will Zalatoris, because everything sets up for him to play a fantastic week and to give you some contention. The big piggyback is, like, you almost wish he won an RSM or a Sanderson. Like, it's a big talking point. I told you it's a talking point for Brooks with 4 majors. So this is a guy with no wins. That is like the one hiccup in my head, as well as Daniel Berger at 50 to 1, who only has 1 career round in the 60s at the Masters, which is kind of weird, but I maybe shouldn't overrate that. But I've been trapped into Berger too many times. So some very attractive guys with very limited trophy cases in this range that I don't mind at all.
Yeah, if you're looking for a potential first-time major winner from 25 to 50, I believe that looks like Xander Schauffele, Will Zalatoris, Daniel Berger, Sam Burns, I believe is that list of golfers. A little bit further down, a guy that we discussed before we went hot, Adam Scott, leads off the 60s with Corey Connors, Hideki Matsuyama, and Joaquin Niemann. Matsuyama's numbers all over. Obviously, the injury concerns, as short as 33 to 1, as long as 60 if you shop that. But now, Geoff, we kind of get into this next tier. Some savvy vets, some younger guys looking for a breakthrough. It's kind of a grab bag here.
Yeah, total grab bag. And anybody that's been watching us, I kind of just been talking about Scott for a while, and that goes to the fact that I've been sitting on an 80 to 1 for him to win the Masters. I don't even mind it at the current 60. I like his around the green. I like his putting stats this year. If it's going to be a wily vet, he could be the popular pick, but I'm still sort of in a mode where the week can very much work for him. Hideki, I mean, the numbers will be all over the place, but I don't know, between the responsibilities of being a defending champ and all that's going to go on, I'm not really sure. I don't see myself betting it at all, but we're getting near that range, Rick, where that like red marker comes out.
I was going to ask where that starts, Geoff. Yeah, are we there yet?
I mean, I haven't done the hard math, but, you know, the demarcation point is close, but it is important to shop. Like, am I crazy to also think a guy like Matthew Fitzpatrick? He seems to play well in any kind of conditions. Those early conditions seem sort of ugly potentially. So, you know, in that 71, but as low as 50 to 1 on the grid. Patrick Reed has been a total afterthought, Rick, but a not horrible players, and a Friday in match play where he made 7-8 birdies and just crushed number 1 in the world at the time, John Rahm. So if they give us like an explosive Reed number, I could be there. I'm going to pay attention to the Hatton number, who also I don't believe has ever really scored well here before, but we are right at that sort of.
The last time he played was his best start. So it took him a little bit to get started, Hatton, but the last time he played it last year was his best finish, which is a little bit of encouragement.
Yeah, and I'm not really making any like hot takes here, but we could be past that demarcation point. I am probably going to just pick a couple guys in the very high teens and, you know, hope the board resets where we get some love, you know, potentially into the 20s. And yeah, I mean, it's the Masters, so I'm going to bet it like pretty top heavy, you know, going to pick a couple guys of the elite status, and that's who I'm going to be backing.
One final thing, Geoff, before I move on. I think we're contractually obligated to talk about Tiger Woods. 50-1 essentially across the board, 80-1 at PointsBet. I will not be making a Tiger Woods outright or top 10 or top 20. However, I have made a he will play wager, and I've also gotten plus money on a make the cut wager, but that's as far as I'm willing to go on the big cat, with just hopes of a very exciting week with him playing.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what, I mean, the prop market will be everything, but everywhere, and it'll be quite large, although the unknown of if he's playing, hopefully he can make that announcement earlier. I do believe he's going to play. If he shocks the world, I'll be one of these people that don't have a winning ticket on it. I'm curious, how aggressive they could be in a head-to-head market. Like, would they give you Sergio or Fleetwood versus Tiger Woods? Because I don't want to cheer against Tiger, but I'm not really sure what they could do. Maybe Justin Rose would be the more appropriate name. But there are all sorts of Tiger Wood props that'll be aplenty. I like the positions that you have taken, Rick. I'm very much looking forward to Tiger just taking a lot of oxygen out of the week. I think that's a great thing. I don't even say that as a bad thing. I say that as a great thing, even for some of the top players.
Geoff, any final thoughts, closing thoughts on this week's Masters? Or is there anybody else even further down the board? I mean, Gary Woodland was in the triple digits, Siwoo Kim, Max Homa. I mean, is there a bet to be made here, or are we just wrapping up the card earlier than this?
I mean, I don't mind Siwoo Kim at all. The 12th place finish last year with the broken putter. He has that ability to absolutely spike. It is a second shot golf course, and when he gets on a groove, he just can go in absolutely in fuego. So Siwoo flirting with 100-1 would probably be the guy I would probably suggest, and maybe even could find myself betting this week.
All right. Well, obviously plenty more Masters content coming from the Odds Checker team, but we're going to put a pin in it for now. That right there is Geoff Fienberg. You can find him on Twitter at GFienberg17, and you can find me at Rick Run Good. This has been your Odds Checker betting preview for this week's Masters. Good luck.